Boise School District finishes their first week of school here online. Within this framework, there's nothing about mandating masks within schools for students or staff. The Idaho Food Bank is serving more people this year than past years due to coronavirus, but the pandemic has also slowed down their donations. But if you needed a reason to stay inside today, it wasn't our temperature or our humidity. It was this right here, our current air quality. We're chanting no justice, no peace. While the student doctors are interacting with patients over here, they're actually being recorded over here. Each interaction is observed. 80% of West Ada high schools, including Mountain View behind me, are overcrowded. Telehealth has emerged as a silver lining. Good evening. Thanks for joining us in tonight's Finding Hope, A New Way Forward. I'm Jessica Taylor. They've recently started rerouting irrigation and moving pipes in this area, but they still need to move a few fences and signs before they can actually put the sidewalk in. The ruling means Edma will be the first transgender inmate in the country to receive the surgery. One of the services this dental team offers the kids is placing sealants, which means they can keep their smiles nice and healthy without missing valuable class time. Steve, we could hear about firework in Cascade, but we actually saw them on your first slide of the weather. With the current Boise temperatures, we could see some fireworks going off in that camera as well. But thank you for keeping us updated, even while you're stuck in Cascade. We appreciate it. It's a busy weekend, even in the woods. Kickoff might not be until 8:15, but take a look at the fans right now. Looking forward to it. Thanks, McKenna. 30 kids from across the nation got to visit Florida this weekend, all thanks to American Airlines and the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Behind me is the future home of Swan Falls High School, which is just one way the Kuna School District is hoping to get students prepared for the future. Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jessica Taylor. After years of searching for answers for their children, 3 families in the Treasure Valley eventually received a diagnosis, a rare genetic syndrome called SATB2 associated syndrome. The diagnosis brought their families together, and today they raise awareness for others in their same shoes. It's been a tough year for a 22-year-old from Nampa who got in a life-threatening car accident with his best friend in January. Jacob Welty had to have his shoulder surgically repaired. He has a titanium rod that replaced his femur, and he also had to have his left leg amputated. 3 weeks after getting a prosthetic, Jacob lost it in the Boise River. His leg has since been found, but he needs help to repair it because currently he has to wear 18 pairs of socks to create a snug fit for his prosthetic. Jacob has set up a GoFundMe page and so far has raised a little over $1,000, but he needs $5,000 to repair his leg. Coming up tomorrow, we'll showcase the man who found Jacob's leg in the Boise River. Time now to get a check of the weather. Madeline White joins us with a look at the forecast. Maddie, it feels like it would be a good day to go outside, but once I saw that smoke, I thought, better stay inside.
You better think twice. That's right. We're wearing Boise State colors right now, aren't we?
Yes, we are. We're perfectly dressed for the occasion, and I imagine move-in day or move-in week, whatever it was for the students, wouldn't be super fun with 97-degree temperatures and all the smoke.
I remember those days. It's always move-in day, like happens to be one of the hottest times of year for some reason, isn't it?
That's always how it works out. Thank you, Maddie.
Thank you.
Speaking of Boise State, an astonishing feat for a former Bronco. He's now run about 37 miles of his 48-mile goal. We're talking about Sam McCaskill, a former Boise State football player and NFL alum who we've previously told you about. This video showing him starting his ultra marathon last night at 6 p.m. outside of Children's Home Society, a nonprofit that provides mental and behavioral health services to Idaho children at low to no cost. To raise funds for the Children's Home, Sam is aiming to complete 48 miles in 48 hours. Sam is running in 4 to 6 mile increments with just some brief naps in between. If you'd like to support his mission, just visit the link on your screen where you can make a donation per mile that Sam runs or a one-time flat donation. A downtown Boise event called the Trump 2020 Cruise Rally brought a crowd Saturday afternoon. Groups like the Ada County Republicans gathered in Ann Morrison to prepare for the parade. We talked with the organizer of the event who told us it surprised him to see how many people wanted to come out for this event. He says all he wanted to do was put together a family-friendly parade to show support for President Trump. There were also several signs calling for the recall of Mayor Lauren McLean and Councilwoman Lisa Sanchez. Groups were gathering signatures while they sold flags and other memorabilia. Governor Brad Little issued a proclamation this week calling the Idaho legislature into a special session on Monday. The legislature will address a pair of problems created by the pandemic. These items include election law changes to allow county clerks to sort absentee ballots earlier than normal because the state expects so many of those ballots. In addition, the legislature will consider ways to make polling locations safer for voters and poll workers whose average age is 70 years old.
It'll be sent to them and their vote will be counted.
The other issue the legislature will address centers around liability during the pandemic. The governor told us it's important to protect schools and businesses during this challenging time. The Idaho Food Bank is serving more people this year than past years due to coronavirus, but the pandemic has also slowed down their donations. However, relief funds from the state of Idaho will give the food bank the resources they need to continue helping people. Idaho News 6's Steve Dent breaks it all down while showcasing how the food bank is working through the pandemic. If you need help due to food insecurity, you can go to Idaho Food Bank's website and click on Get Food to figure out where you can get a collection box. We'll also have a link on our website at idahonews6.com. Still ahead on Idaho News 6, it might be hard to find your perfect fishing spot, but finding all the gear during the pandemic is the bigger challenge. Greg Hampikian knows DNA. He's been studying samples of it from suspects for years to assist Canyon County detectives in the Darylyn Johnson case.
The folks in my lab at the time, Michael Davis, did mitochondrial sequencing on DNA from suspects that were eliminated. All of them were eliminated.
The case had hair evidence, and Charles Fain was originally pinned to the crime.
Hair isn't the best evidence for DNA.
His lawyer was able to show the hairs didn't match, exonerating Fain, but the case was still unsolved.
We're left with this problem. Whose hair is it?
In 2016, Greg met scientist Ed Green, whose lab at UC Santa Cruz looks at old, broken, and degraded DNA. He introduced Ed to the detectives, and Green's new research led to this man, David Allen Dalrymple, a DNA match.
Ed Green was able to develop for the police from these hairs enough DNA information to know, first of all, it was a hair from a male. That was very important. And second of all, to get enough information that it could be compared to some genealogy.
Hampikian says this is cutting-edge stuff. They can look at smaller and smaller pieces to identify a mitochondrial DNA profile.
Really the best of the best of the best for broken, old, dead DNA.
Dalrymple's sample was not one Greg had tested in his lab, but he says for the science, this is a satisfying end to the decades-long search for justice.
This is 40 years. The lesson for me is no, you never give up.
Lori Walenga has to make a tough decision in the next few weeks.
I just don't feel like that's a fair place to put parents, to ask them to choose between their family's health and their other child's education.
As a parent in West Ada School District, Lori's family has the option to attend the district's virtual program next semester. But it means her daughter Ella would lose her spot at Galileo STEM Academy, a school of choice they were thrilled to get into via a lottery system.
We will fill that seat if there are kids on the waiting list.
Other parents at these schools of choice are in the same position.
It's not a decision. I'm not sending him to school. Not until there's a vaccine or the end of the pandemic.
There's no guarantee they'll have a spot when school returns, but the district is making some accommodations.
If they are a student with an underlying health condition that puts them at risk of staying in a regular school, we will reserve them a spot.
A good solution, but it certainly doesn't account for families like the Walengas.
Ella herself does not have any medical conditions on her own, but her brother does. And sending her to a school of between 800 and 1,000 people, her chance of exposure is off the chart.
Parents are hoping to see other possible solutions implemented.
In a perfect world, I would like to see the kids be able to stay in their schools of choice and participate virtually.
And put the STEM skills they're learning in their classrooms to use.
We have a pandemic, a national pandemic that's affecting our state in skyrocketing numbers. We have an actual real-life problem here, so let's use our STEM education to solve that problem.
The district says they plan to ask the board to waive a policy which would allow them to put the students who don't return in person to their schools of choice first in next year's lottery. The family tells me missing one dialysis treatment is like missing a week of your kidney function. And Donna Forrester had to miss 2 separate appointments after her Medicaid rides canceled. It's not a high percentage of canceled rides, but just one can turn into a life or death situation.
The only reason why I filled out the Medicaid paperwork was to see if she could qualify for transportation.
Mandy Forrester works 2 full-time jobs, one as a pharmacist and one as an advocate and caretaker for her mother, Donna.
She's my nurse. She takes care of all my medicines and all my needs and stuff like that. And I'd be lost.
Donna has type 2 diabetes and found herself in renal failure last November. Mandy relies on Medicaid's transportation service to get Donna to her much-needed 4-hour-long dialysis treatments 3 times a week. Except it hasn't always been reliable.
She received a text message saying that her ride had been canceled, and then she had received a phone call saying that her dialysis treatment had been canceled.
Oh, yeah.
I called the dialysis center and I asked them, was her treatment canceled today? No, we were waiting for her. The driver had called the dialysis center to, I guess, confirm the appointment, but he had the wrong center.
It wasn't an isolated incident.
The second time that it was canceled, she had received a text message saying that your ride has been canceled by MTM and we are arranging for a Lyft driver.
And their assigned Lyft driver promptly canceled too.
It's very frustrating. I figured if this is happening to her, it's happening to other people who need life-saving treatments.
And it is.
The number of missed trips is running right around 0.07%.
In total, it's around 1,129 missed trips for the year. Donna was one of the 88 who filed a complaint of a missed trip in November.
In the best case, a missed trip is going to be an inconvenience for someone. Anywhere from that to, they might have something that's a lot more important that really could represent a risk to their health.
Luckily for the Forresters, once the Department of Health and Welfare heard about the situation, they reconciled it. Now Mandy is advocating for others.
Medicaid's going to offer this service. They need to make sure that it's a service that they can offer to all communities, whether it be Emmett, Payette, Weiser,